Hello, in this video I'm going to explain why you have panic attacks in vehicles. Whether you're scared of driving, flying, being in a tank, a jet ski or a submarine, I'm going to explain why they're all really very similar, but we're going to split it into two categories, and this is when you're in control of the vehicle and when you're not in control of the vehicle. My name's Paul and I work online with people all over the world to help them overcome their fear of driving. And one of the most common questions people ask me is, where did this problem come from? Well, as I've said many times in my videos before, a fear of driving has nothing to do with driving, and a fear of flying has nothing to do with flying. It's all the same thing. And as I've also described before, but I am going to share some new information with you soon that I've never spoke about before. As I've said in the past, what this actually is a problem from your past which is now coming out. It's some kind of suppressed emotion or repressed feeling. It's something that you haven't dealt with in your past that is coming out when you drive or when you fly. But why is that? Well, first of all, let's have a look at what happens when you are in control of the vehicle. So let's imagine that you're driving, because that's the most common one. Most people who fly will not be in control of the plane. So let's just look at driving, because most people who drive have the fear when they drive. Think about this. When you drive a car, you don't actually think about what you're doing consciously, do you? One of the most common things drivers say is that it's weird how I can drive somewhere and when I get out at the other end, I can't even remember the journey and my hands and my feet are just moving themselves and I don't even know what I'm really doing. Well, that's why people find driving so easy, because you do it with your subconscious. And having spent over 20 years as a driving instructor, I know that's why learner drivers find driving so hard, because you see, learners are driving with their conscious mind, whereas experienced drivers are driving with their subconscious or unconscious mind. But how does that give you panic attacks? Well, you've got to think of it like this. When you're driving, you have opened the door to your subconscious mind. Now, in effect, whenever you drive a car, you're going into hypnosis, because that's what hypnosis is. It's not this trance people often think it is, where your eyes are closed and you're like a zombie and you're being controlled by someone else. No, that's not it at all. Everyone actually goes into hypnosis when they drive. In fact, driving is one of the best ways to hypnotise yourself. You've probably heard of highway hypnosis, when you can be driving and you get so kind of into that zone where you feel kind of tired, kind of relaxed, although hypnosis is not about relaxation, as you'll know from my other videos, and you just get into that zone where you feel really calm, and even though you're driving a car, you just want to drift off to sleep. Well, that's because you're hypnotising yourself. But how does that give you a problem? Well, you see, when you've opened the door to your subconscious mind, any problems you have in your life can come out at that time. So you've opened the door to your subconscious, which makes driving easier, but the problems you've got in your life that you don't even know about, they think, hey look, the door's open, let's go out, this is our moment to jump out and get some attention. So they come out and you start sweating, panicking, because you're reliving these old emotions that you haven't processed. They've been sitting there for sometimes decades. And people say, well, why would that happen? Because it happened years ago and I can't even remember it. You may not remember it, but your subconscious mind will. And although you may not remember the event, you often remember how it made you feel. You know how sometimes when you smell something and it takes you back instantly, many years ago, you think, oh, it's that smell. I remember that from when I was a kid. Smells take you back in time instantly. And that's what's happening when you drive. It's not that there's a smell, although there may be if you're nervous. It's just that your unconscious mind, or subconscious mind, whatever you choose to call it, is coming out when you drive. So you're opening the door to your subconscious and all of your problems will come out. Any problems you've got in your life, any flaws, any anxiety, any stress, and again, these are things you won't even know about. It will all come out when you drive. because you've opened the door to your subconscious mind. But what about when you're not in control of the vehicle? What about when you're flying, or maybe you're a passenger in some other vehicle like a ferry or anything? When you're not in control of the vehicle, there are really two main ways that can cause anxiety. Number one is that it simply triggers an old feeling. So it may be that, for example, I've known this where someone was on a ferry and as it was leaving the dock, it was making a sound like click, 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 click. I don't know if it was the sound of the anchor or whatever coming up, it was just something clicking. That took them back to a time they were in childhood and they were going up the steep slope at the start of a roller coaster. You know how when you're going up, the chain or the cogs are going to go chick, click, chick, click, 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 click. And that kind of triggered off a panic attack because they were scared back then. So that's one way it can happen. The vehicle that you're in somehow, in some way, triggers an old feeling. And again, you won't know what this is. That's the whole point. It's happening subconsciously. But the other way it can happen is simply you have a fear of that vehicle. So you fear that your life is in danger. And what happens is, when you're in danger, whenever there's any kind of shock, and this is something I'll have to do another video about, because this is how you may have heard of shock inductions with hypnosis, and you might have seen things where you walk up to someone in the street and you can shake the hand and they drop into a hypnotic trance. I will do another video if you want explaining how that works, but it's a similar kind of thing here. You are in fear of your life, and what happens is, first of all, your conscious mind scans for a solution, but you can't find one. So then you go into your subconscious, and unfortunately, you can pull out a bad solution. So you might bring up an old memory or an old feeling, and that gives you a panic attack. And this is why it's so confusing when people say, why would I be nervous when I'm sitting in a tank, for example? Maybe you've gone for some day out to some museum and you've gone for a ride in a tank. This does happen. And people suddenly have a panic attack. And some people believe that they're reliving a past life, or were they a soldier in a previous life? Well, maybe that's another explanation. But my feeling about this is that it's just triggered something off. So, as I say in all my other videos, you need to find what that event actually is. And the thing is, always something about it which wasn't resolved, some kind of issue that happened back then that you've never really properly resolved. And when you resolve that issue, then the problem in the vehicle will go. Check out these other videos on the screen now for more help, specifically with the fear of driving. But if you would like to see videos on other vehicles and forms of transport, please let me know in the comments. If you want to work with me one-to-one online from anywhere in the world, check out my website, firstdrive.com. Thanks for watching, and as always, I'll see you again soon for more videos.